Dr. Leonardo Medina.
Yeah, a program is designed to have a review every 6 months. This means that every 6 months we are expected to go to the executive board for approval of the review, and then a disbursement can be made.
Also, e-levy rakes in 861.47 million cedis in 11 months to implementation, as first quarter of 2023 recorded about 246.9 million in revenue. Ahead, we will engage the Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies on the latest data from the Ghana Revenue Authority. Plus, producers of fruit juices and other beverages increased prices of their products following implementation of 3 new tax measures. We shall be engaging the Food and Beverages Association on this. We've got details of these and many others coming your way shortly. Please stay. Grateful you could join us. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Now, Ghana's program with the International Monetary Fund is expected to undergo review by the fund every 6 months before additional disbursements are made to government. Resident representative of the IMF, Dr. Leonardo Medina, who disclosed this, says this is to ensure that the program stays on course and the necessary conditions are met by government. He has been speaking on a yet-to-be-aired interview, PM Express Business Edition, come Thursday.
Last week, a 3-year, $3 billion US dollar extended credit facility was approved by the IMF Executive Board, and a $600 million US dollar has been disbursed to Ghana.
So as we speak right now, Doc, again, help me out with some education that have we met all the requirements for this program, since or some are still being more of a conditional approval and certain things are supposed to be worked on and all the rest, or some will come in the second review and all the rest, especially with some who say that in respect to in Ghana, we're still working on finalizing the domestic direction program, also engaging our external creditors as well.
Let me tell you, all the requisites by the authorities and what was needed from the international community to be able to go to the board has been met, and therefore the board was able to approve the program request. But this is just the beginning. And as Governor Addison said, there is a lot of work ahead of us. This is a 3-year program that is very rich in policies and reforms with the objectives of restoring the macroeconomic stability, ensuring debt sustainability, and laying the foundations for a higher and more inclusive growth. So the work has just started.
Help me out for the sake of our viewers as well. So it's supposed to be a 3-year program. When does the program officially take off? Was it when the board approved it, or when the disbursement was made, or when Ghana actually starts drawing down the funds? So when the staff level agreement was reached and all the rest. Help us out when you talk about the 3-year program and when officially kicks off.
The implementation has essentially started actually when we were discussing the program that could be supported by the IMF. And we see already some results. For example, inflation came down from 54% in December last year to 41% in April this year. In terms of the milestones and the timeline, a program is designed to have a review every 6 months. This means that every 6 months we are expected to go to the executive board for approval of the review, and then a disbursement can be made. So in terms of the next steps, we are really looking forward to completing the first review, and that is expected to be completed, which means be taken to the board for approval in November of this year.
So, and there's some clarity that I wanted. So does it mean that the program took off when the board approved Ghana's program, or the program took off when the disbursement was made. So if you are doing in terms of the calculation-wise, that should be the test. I hope I'm not mixing the jargons here. The test date or for it to be calculated going forward.
In terms of the formality, in a nutshell, I could say discussions with authorities, reaching staff level agreement.
Okay.
Getting the conditions that are needed from staff level agreement to take the program to the board. That's the official approval. When you take the program to the IMF board, it's approved, and each time you have approval, you have automatically a disbursement. And then you have test dates that are the test dates that you're going to be looking at when you try to complete the review. For example, in the case of the first review that is expected to be completed in November, the test date is going to be end June. So we're all going to be looking at variables at end June.
Well, you can watch the full interview come Thursday on PM Express Business Edition. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority is joining hands with other West African tax administrations to use geospatial analytics to support the collection of property rate, which is expected to begin next month. According to the authority, this will complement the work of the digital address system in locating taxpayers and properties for taxation. Deputy Commissioner in charge of operations at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Daniel Edisi, explains to Joy Business that more taxpayers are moving online, hence the need to digitize the tax system. He spoke after opening the West African Tax Administration Forum training program in Accra. There is more in this report.
The use of geospatial technology in tax collection is new in Africa. Many communities were developed without such planning. In the case of Ghana, the recently introduced digital address system is seen as an innovative intervention that can support revenue mobilization. At the launch of the 3-day training on geospatial analytics for tax officials in the West African sub-region, Deputy Commissioner of Operations at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Daniel Edisi, disclosed that the technology will play a key role in the country's property rates collection system, which will be rolled out soon.
Basically to help us to get the locations of properties. So if you're able to do that, indeed it will help us locate the taxpayers and be able to reach out to them in order to help us in their revenue mobilization drive. So basically, it is to identify taxpayers, property owners, using data geospatial analytics. That's about it.
So does it mean that the focus is basically for the property rates?
Not at all. It is for each taxpayer that we can lay hands on, because even though we are shifting from mortar and bricks, which we are talking about e-commerce and things, but a lot chunk of our taxpayers belongs to mortar and bricks. And trying to locate them using data also help us to identify the taxpayers.
Training and capacity building manager at the West African Tax Administration Forum, Dan Asabi, explains the importance of such training to improve revenue mobilization.
Came from the angle of the manager training. Capacity is what we all need to have optimum revenue in our region, West Africa, and in our various countries. So, geospatial analytics is something that will help us build this knowledge on the locations of our taxpayers and how well their businesses are growing. If you attend this training, you will see later on that you could even monitor the activities of taxpayers, how they are growing, and you also can even map out the revenue that is collected from any particular section or part of the country. So it's very important for revenue administration, and looking at most businesses are going digital. Tax administration also needs to follow suit to go digital. In fact, need to go ahead of them so that you can maximize revenue from these digital services.
The move to use geospatial analytics is expected to boost tax compliance.
Meanwhile, data from the Ghana Revenue Authority indicates that the electronic transaction levy implemented in May 2022 raked in 861.47 million cedis as of March 2023. Now, the controversial levy in the first year of implementation at a rate of 1.5% accrued 614.57 million cedis. However, in the first 3 months of 2023, the levy brought in 246.9 million cedis for the state. And Executive Director of the Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies, Dr. Benjamin Amwa, joins us via Zoom for more on this. Grateful you could join us, Dr. Amwa, here on Business Live. Now, about 246.9 million cedis in revenue from e-levy in the first quarter of this year. Is this significant, you would say?
Yeah, thank you very much. It is significant compared to where we started from last year. If you look at the first 3 months of the implementation of the e-levy, we were not getting in that much. But then, if for the first 3 months, we've had over 200 million from this tax handle, considering even the economic situation we find ourselves as a country, it looks good. And as we move into the second quarter, third quarter, the hope and the expectation is that it will improve to help in the revenue ambition of government.
Well, Dr. Amwa, can this be attributed to the reviewed rate of 1% as captured in the 2022 budget?
Partly so, but then if you look at the data from January, February, March, you realize that compared to the last quarter of last year, the numbers has rather dipped compared to when we had a 1.5. But we must also say that this is the beginning of the year where economic activities are quite low. So in terms of transactions, one would not expect as much electronic transactions that would then attract the e-levy. So for us to look at the 1.5 rate regime and then now 1% e-levy rate regime, we need more observations. Then we can have a better appreciation of the extent to which the revision of the rate from 1.5 to 1% have impacted on the e-levy revenue for government. For now, it is too early for one to conclude that the slight dip in e-levy revenue is due to the 1.5. I strongly believe that after the announcement of the reduction to 1, initially the minister said that the threshold of 100 Ghana cedis is no longer being used. Then again, civil society had to fight against that, and the government had to reinstall the 100% threshold. So there were some agitations around that time, and that may have, from the pickup of the 1%, may have affected that particular rate. But let's hope that going into 2023, the reduction in rate will increase the transactions level, which will then affect the revenue from e-levy positively.
Do you belong to the school of thought which still believes that, well, the country could be raking in more in terms of revenue if the rate was reduced further below 1%?
Absolutely. Though there's this difficulty that I think Ministry of Finance, Ghana Revenue Authority, the telcos, and the Bank of Ghana must find a solution to. It looks like there's a black box within the e-levy ecosystem. Because if you look at the amount of transactions that is being recorded as electronic transactions, mobile money transactions, and you come to think of these low-value e-levy amount being mobilized from e-levy, there's a missing link within that space that I think the implementers must sit down to look at what really is happening. One is not expecting a one-on-one match, as in 550 billion, so you expect to get 5 billion as e-levy. No. But then if you are mobilizing 550 billion and you are getting less than 1 billion as e-levy, then there's something definitely missing within that ecosystem that the regulators must find and then put a hand on if they are going to be successful as getting something near what they targeted for introducing the e-levy.
We are grateful, Dr. Benjamin Amwa, for your time here on Business Life. He is the Executive Director of the Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies. A reminder, you're still watching Business Live here on the Joy News channel. Still to come, producers of fruit juices and other beverages increase prices of their products following implementation of 3 new tax measures. We shall be engaging the Food and Beverages Association on this after this break. Hello, welcome back. Producers of fruit juices and other beverages have increased prices of some of their products following the implementation of the controversial 3 revenue tax measures. Checks by Joy Business revealed that prices of some beverages have gone up. Government introduced the Income Tax Amendment, Excise Duty and Tax Excise Stamp Policy, as well as the Growth and Sustainability Taxes as part of efforts to shore up revenue, much to the disappointment of the business community. Let's find out what really is accounting for this. Joining us is the Executive Secretary of the Food and Beverages Association, Samuel Agri, for more. Samuel, grateful you could join us on Business Live. First off, let us understand what some of these items are we are talking about in terms of prices.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. In fact, when you look at the announcement of the total implementation of this excise duty and the other taxes that came on board, the government itself, or the GRA, has announced an increase going to the parliament to ask for an increase of 20%, meaning that from where we were, if it was at 15% or 18%, then we are going to go 18% plus the 20%. But when you look at the figures that they are putting out there, if you take the figures, it's almost about 100%, which means that what they went to Parliament to ask for, they've gone overboard to increase it the way they want to increase it, without any recourse or regards to industry. And therefore, I should say that this is most unfortunate. And if you look at it, the prices that has gone up, because of the announcement that it was going to go up by 20%, other companies have started increasing the cost of their produce by that margin. Unfortunately, what we are going to see is a further increase of about 40 to 80%, some of them 100%. And if we are not informed that this is the way they were going to charge in terms of taxation, and these companies have gone ahead also to increase at a lesser rate, then of course it will be very difficult for the implementation to take place, because for what they said they were going to do, they've gone adverse to do otherwise. And I don't think this is the way we should go. So if you look at the ICOMS platform, which for the imports of said commodities that are coming in, you'll see that they put in there that they're going to start the implementation by 1st of July, meaning that they've shifted the date from May to July. But with the local production, there's nothing that they can do than to take a step further to start doing the increments. So if you are seeing an increase in some of the commodities that we see in the market, then obviously it's based on the announcement that was done, which has culminated into this industry is also taking those steps.
All right, so someone help me understand, by what margin are we looking at?
The margin that we are seeing, based on, depending on what you are producing, if you are producing the soft drink, which was about 5 to 18%, and the beer was also about 45%, depending on the composition that you are using. So the average rate that has come up, or what has popped up now, is not even up to 20%. But unfortunately, if you look at the GRA figures, what I'm seeing is that they've increased some of them to about 100%. And therefore, if we have to go this way without informing industry exactly what they have to do, then the marginal increase that they have done will not be enough for them to break even. So therefore, we will then have to wait to see the full implementation as to how much the figures are really coming on board, so that the proper fixation of the prices will be done. But now, it's not even up to 20% as we are seeing.
But in as much as it's not even up to 20%, as you're saying, there are some who have argued that you are being insensitive to consumers, especially when cost of living is generally high and there have been tariffs and other taxes, consumers would have to bear. Why would you increase your products by this time?
It's not the industry that is being insensitive. If you look at the figures that has come up, let me take time to explain if we have time. If you look at the three taxes that has come on board, the large manufacturers are the ones bearing the brunt of it because they are to pay 2.5% increase of their profits to government for free of charge without government giving them any rebates or any other incentives for them to be able to break even. So therefore, you and I, the consumer, are going to pay for that 2.5%. The other one, which is the income tax that has also been increased, is also coming from where the industry would then have to borrow money at the initial stage to pay the income tax of their workers. So you see where the increment is coming from. And this money has to come from we, the consumers. So it is not their making that they have to go up and increase just like that. There are reasons for doing that. And all these things that must be laid at the doorstep of the Ministry of Finance when they went ahead to seek for an increase in these areas. Because we want them that what they are doing is going to cause a lot of a problem in the market. So therefore, they need to be very careful. If you look at it, just as this implementation came around, we are also having to face with an increase with electricity cost across board. So with that 18% from the electricity, we don't know how much water bill is also going to come. So if the utilities are going up, the taxes itself are also going up, what do you expect the industry to do? If you're a businessman or a trader and you don't take all these things into consideration, then obviously, I don't know where you are making the money and how you are going to even survive. And the only way to go is to have a marginal increase so that you can also pass it on to we, the consumers, to make that money, to pay government as it is. Because government is saying they should charge you so that they can make the money that they want to make. They are not making that money for their own, but they are doing it on behalf of the government. So we need to ask government, why are you increasing the taxes for these people to pay? Because the very moment government does that, then obviously it's going to trigger the inflation area, and then the space of also increasing the products or the produce that we are producing also is going to go up. So what is coming in as an import and what is being produced locally, we must be sure that from now going to the end of the year, there will be several increases over there. And unfortunately, or fortunately, as the city is also gaining this strength, maybe there will be a reprieve in that area. So we should pray that we have a city that is very strong against other currencies, so that imports will be very low, and then the city will gain this strength for people to also use that one in their calculation of their cost.
Thank you very much, Samuel Agri.
Let me say that
Samuel, we are time bound. We will definitely come to you as and when we need more clarification. Grateful, Samuel Agri, joining me on Business Live. This has been Business Live. I am Pius Kojo Baka. You can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. We leave you with some international business news.